2003 Buick Park Avenue. I've been having two issues with my turn signal multifunction lever. The first is the high beams. When I click, they will not stay on. The other issue is my left turn signal has been working intermittently. Sometimes it'll work, sometimes it won't. According to the factory service manual, the steering wheel and airbag need to be removed to replace the multifunction lever. I'm going to try the project and see if that's correct. Removal of lower steering column trim cover. There are two T25 torque screws that need to be removed. The tilt lever also needs to be removed. That simply pulls out. With the lower trim cover, there are two screws. I also found I had to use a screwdriver to pry it slightly. And there are also, the bottom piece is hooked, so you have to kind of pry the top off and then push the bottom towards the front of the car and down. Here's another view of the trim cover to show you the lower steering column trim cover to show you the tabs. This is looking at the driver's side of it. There you can see the two holes for the screws. Then this is the passenger side towards the front. Again, you see that tab. And that's kind of the area where your key is. Upper steering column trim cover. Unfortunately, the trim cover is retained by the steering wheel. And on the other side, the lock cylinder holds it in place. So on some other GM cars, you can kind of pry the steering cover out from the groove with the wheel, but on this car, the steering wheel and airbag will have to be removed. In order to remove the airbag, you need to use a special tool. I was unable to do it with screwdrivers, but it appears for the tool to work, it's actually, you have the tool along the side of the airbag, you insert it into the back, and then you kind of press the bottom of the tool towards, you put it in, and you press it towards the front of the car. I'm not going to be able to probably do it with one hand, but that's the idea. Here you can kind of see the one side of the airbag did pop, and I'll show you a picture of the special tool later. And there's one thing I want to reiterate, is you're supposed to disable the airbag. On this car, according to the manual, all you need to do is disconnect the negative battery cable and wait a couple minutes. This is the special tool I ended up using. It's made by Lyle. It's 55150. Actually made in the USA. And here we go. That is the airbag popped out. Once you get the tool in the right position and on the tabs, and you push the bottom of the tool towards the instrument panel front of the car, it just pops. So there you go. I rotated the steering wheel again, 180 degrees. Put the tool on the other side, and once you get the tool in the right position on the tabs, it just this side popped right out a lot. I don't like buying special tools, but in this case, it was it really made the job go well. I imagine maybe with two screwdrivers, if you're really good dexterity, you probably could do it, or if you had some time in your hands, you might be able to make the tool yourself. This is the back of the airbag. There's two wires that need to be removed. There's an electrical clip here, and this red wire that I'm not quite sure how it's removed yet. I'll I'll have to look into that more. So the yellow wire, you pull this clip up here, remove that, and then you just pull the right out, pull the connector right out. The red wire is removed. You just twist it counterclockwise a little bit, and and it pulls right out. Steering wheel removal. It's a 21 millimeter socket. You need to brace the wheel kind of with your legs, and I've already loosened it, but it just turns. In order to remove the steering wheel, a puller is required. The AutoZone, my AutoZone will let you borrow these tools. You pay a deposit, and the deposits you get the deposit back and you return the tools. So there's this regular steering wheel puller. But the other thing that's unusual about this General Motors, the Buick, is there's not threaded holes. You need sort of a hooked arm to grab the backside of the steering wheel. The steering wheel pulling legs from the AutoZone Lona tool actually would not fit into the holes. I believe there's a hole here, and here are the two that are supposed to be used for pulling. So I ended up doing, it's kind of hard to see, but I took an angle grinder and just took a little bit off the outside corner and the edges. I just had to grind a little bit off to get it to fit in. Okay, here's the puller in place. I'm going to have to stop recording while I use it. Well, the Lona tool puller from AutoZone worked. This is what it looks like with the steering wheel removed. Upper trim cover removal. Underneath there's one tiny external torque screw that needs to be removed. All right, the cover's removed. It looks like there might be another screw over here, but it wasn't in place on my cover. And the other thing, I was just able to angle the cover off. The service manual states that the lock cylinder has to be removed to get the cover out, but that's not the case. In order to get the turn signal switch out, there's just one torque screw here, and there's also one right there. One of the things that made the project kind of difficult is, as you can see, the wire harness actually, you don't disconnect it at the turn signal switch. The wire harness has to be disconnected on this end, also here, in my case here. All these are way underneath the dashboard. Just wanted to, haven't filmed that, but I just thought, kind of show you why I ended up taking the lower instrument panel off. In order to access the wiring connector in the end of the turn signal harness underneath the dashboard, I ended up removing the entire lower instrument panel cover. It's actually not that difficult. It's just a lot of bolts. Removal of the wiring harness connector. This is hard to film, but there's multiple near the parking brake and a regular brake. There's multiple wire connectors, and there's tabs. This whole assembly drops down, and that will give you access to one of the wiring connectors is for the turn signal lever switch. It's really difficult to get to. I'm not sure if I had to remove the lower instrument panel cover or not, but at the time I could not determine to see where the wire went. But I guess you can kind of see, I can't film it, but there's two small squeeze tabs that will let this whole connector drop.